year, at different times this year, but it's been a little bit more inconsistent due to defenses, due to, just been the way I think sometimes the game's called. She couldn't quite get in a rhythm with fouls. So I just am really happy for Hannah. They all put in so much work, and, everybody, she's, really sacrificed a lot from the 4 to the 5, and, played the 4 to start and the 5. So just happy. And I hope that's going to bode well for the Big Ten tournament, that she's going in with that type of confidence.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to be Wisconsin again on Wednesday. Good thing, bad thing? Just.
Well, I think Sean had the scout, that's a good thing, because then he doesn't have to pour over someone you played, 2 months ago, right? I think it is just a thing, right? I mean, every coach, you could probably find a reason why you don't want to play someone, and then you always want to play someone else that you're not playing, and have you play that team, then you wish you were playing the other team. So I think it'll be interesting. They should have some confidence with the first half, right? Hopefully we have some confidence with how, we came out in the second half, but I don't really have a feeling. I'm just, I just know, not my first rodeo, anything happens in March, and so it doesn't really matter. You got to be ready, and if you're not ready, then you don't get to have as much fun. So I do think we'll be ready. I'd like to think it. I don't think I'll have to get their attention with, how that first half went.
Blake?
Yeah, just looking at the regular season as a whole, to win 30 games, the change you navigated in the offseason, the losing streak, is that an accomplishment in some sense?
I think so. I mean, I feel like it's one of the toughest leagues in the country. I think that's, pretty well understood. I'm proud of that. I'm grateful for it. I think all of us would have taken that bet in May. And where this group was about 5 years or 5 months, weeks ago, I don't know if a lot of people would have thought maybe we could have put that together. And so I think any conference you're in, I think basketball, when you hit that 20 win mark, you have a sense of accomplishment, because that usually has meant really good things for the postseason if you get the at-larges and so forth. But I think that was one thing when I started. I thought, man, if we could get to that would be great. So I'm personally very happy, and I'm really happy for this team, especially what they had to do to get here.
You mentioned the first half really getting the team's attention, and you go into halftime tied. I guess, what's your message to the team in that moment? Are you going in full bore, and how do you adjust going into the second half?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've been around enough senior days. They're just weird. They're odd. There's just with women, there's a lot more. I mean, that's all I've coached, but there's just a lot of connection. And yesterday there was tears in practice, right? Just happy tears, like it's the last time. And so you're managing all of that. You try to talk about the pink elephant in the room and try to get him to be that 40 minutes. That I just never know about senior days, whatever role I'm playing, assistant, associate, head. And I think I told in my press conference, like, I just really was surprised every time I'd watch Wisconsin that they were, at one point battling to get to the tournament, because they do have really good 3-point shooters. And I am a huge Sarah Williams fan. I mean, evidence. I mean, if you get her behind her, she's going to make you pay, right? So it was just an uneasy feeling. So it wasn't like I thought we were just going to show up and just, have a heyday. I mean, that's what I told the players, that, I kind of did, get a little bit intense at halftime. I didn't think our defensive intensity was there. I think we were too kind of worried about all the emotions, or, felt like we just didn't have our focus. And I just reminded them, like, what team have we played this year that we won really easily without a fight, with the exception of Washington? None. None here, none on the road. And I said, this is Big Ten. Just because we're here and we're trying to win for these seniors, that don't mean nothing. So I just try to get them back on track with our defense, and I really thought our offense was going to come back. I mean, we were so cold, I just was happy that we locked in defensively a little bit better. I mean, they kept fighting. I wasn't surprised at that, but I just, I thought we were probably a little emotional to start.
Stargan.
For as much as what's new has been a theme this year, you enter March with a coaching staff and a roster and a lot of people on it that were right in the thick of March's intensity and all it brings for the last couple of years. Just, I guess, how do you feel like that can be a benefit moving into postseason play?
Well, I mean, you hope it is, right? Because that's what they know, right? It's what they had fun, you know, they know how hard it is. I mean, the Big Ten championship game last year was just such a barn burner, right? So I think they just have a really good perspective. They're excited, they have confidence, they kind of know what to expect, but they also know that March is filled with the unexpected. So I think it's nice to have that, you know, because I think our seniors earlier, our vets were a little inconsistent and the freshmen were kind of leading us. I think the vets have mostly settled. So hopefully, you know, they can lead them into that. And I hope it's that confidence and the memory and the, you know, just playing with a lightness and a joy that'll kind of carry us to some fun in March. But, you know, it's going to be, depending on what happens, you know, probably 5 games, right, in 5 days. Is that probably what it's going to be like? So I haven't focused on that. I just think anything can happen in March. And I'm glad I have the vets that have been there. Now, granted, they're in really different roles. You're going to be asked them to go into Indy, but hopefully they've got some experience.
Kyle.
What did you think was different about your team's play in the second half, and did you make any adjustments at the halftime that kind of led to that?
Yeah, we had some miscommunication. I wanted the fours to be fronting, and I wasn't clear on that. They were getting, you know, you can think you're fronting and get stuck behind, and that's what I thought was happening, but they were playing behind. You know, you don't really know, right? So I wanted to front that. So we made that adjustment a little bit more. We tried to kind of choke a little bit more. But we just kind of upped the intensity a little bit, and I thought our offense started to look a little more. We settled for way too many threes to start the game. And so, you know, got up, 10-2, and then I think you can think it's going to be a little easier, and then you get cold and they fight, right? So we just tried to change that. Not always, you know, try to play behind a little, but I really wanted our fours to try to do that. So that was that adjustment. But I just thought we just did our principles better. We just weren't that sharp to start. And credit Wisconsin. I mean, they play hard. Number 3 can shoot it. She didn't need much space. I mean, that 1 and 25, that combination is that high-low. You don't see that very much. I mean, when's the last, women's game where we have that, really the 4 to 5. I love that, right? I love that style. Sure. And they do it well. So they played hard. It wasn't us just being off. I think it was emotional, but they beat Michigan. I mean, this league just beats people.
Jan, looking back at this year for Lucy, I mean, you bring her in to score, right? She leads the team in scoring all season, and then leads the team in scoring tonight. It just kind of seems like poetic justice. I don't know. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
you know, I just give Lucy so much credit because, you know, few people would have the courage to really look at a school where you knew the GOAT had just left. And, you know, she just really liked, I think, our culture. And I think she liked that, we have great fans. And she felt the culture when she came. And that was amazing. But then when she held with all the changes, right? And it's just hard to be a point guard in the portal when you come in, and then you have all the coaching change, right? So she's, even though I was pretty similar to what we had, but what she handled and kept leaning into moments, and I just can't say enough, and I think she's done a really beautiful job. And I'd like to think she's kind of been hitting her stride a little bit more. And that's what we're going to need. We're going to need her and Hannah and Sid. Those big 3 need to be pretty consistent in March to see how far we can go in Indy or see how far we can go. You know, it's always about matchups. Everybody puts a big deal about seeds, but you got to get the right matchup for your team. And if we get the right matchup in March, and then we can you have those guys be consistent, I think they got a good shot to have some fun.
Chad?
You guys are going into the Big Ten tournament with an 11 by your name, which is kind of strange because a lot of people would probably argue you're playing top 3 or 4 in the Big Ten. So do you have the type of team that can maybe use that as a chip on its shoulder?
Yeah, I do. It's interesting. This team is, they're not like exactly the chippy type of team, but they're certainly not wondering team. They're not like a meek team and like wondering. They kind of just take it as it comes. And I don't know how to explain it. Like, I mean, I think that's evidenced by like this whole year. I mean, they've been there. You know, the only time we lost by double digits was against Tennessee. And I'm trying to think of all my career, how many times that's probably happened. And believe me, I lost enough sleep about the times we didn't get across the finish line. But they just have a stick-to-itiveness. And I don't think they're caught up with like, no, we're in 11, or like we're in 11. They're just, we're in 11.
Yeah.
It is what we are. And I think that's a good way to approach it, because we coulda, woulda, shoulda, and maybe we would have been a 9 or higher, or we could have been a lot higher. But if you live back there, it's kind of, I think I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, I went home, my son asked me 2 or 3 wins ago, he's like, I mean, just think, I mean, do you ever think if we woulda, I said, no, because we're here now. And when we started this thing, I kept telling the players, and I think I told you guys, I didn't want rear view mirrors. You just got to keep looking forward. And I think here's where we are. Because you can look and go, oh, the path would have been a little better. Could have been a 9 if we could have got that one. But that is such wasted energy. So I'm just really thrilled that we grew, and we had a lot of those adverse moments, but growing is usually painful. But if you use it right, the beautiful part can come, and this is, I think, a really beautiful part. They got to 20, and then if we're just 11, and we just go attack it, I think things will be okay.
Angie?
When Lisa retired and you took over and you had to make that phone call to Lucy and her parents, you know, as one of the top transfers in the country, and she stuck with you, what does that say about her confidence in you and the program?
Yeah, I was just really thankful. I mean, I just think that, you know, probably my years of service as an associate head coach, right? Like, I've been there about as close as you could be. But I make a lot of those calls to the recruits, right? It was kind of the first line. And, you know, I think it took, you know, Sid and Hannah and all the rest of them. When she saw that they're good, I'm good, right? I think collectively, I just had some really good breaks early. But I just feel like there's a lot of times, you know, in this business, it's a lot about connectivity. And a lot of times you want it to be the top ranked recruits that you all read about, and they visit and we go watch. But it's the connectivity, I think, of authenticity and what you both want out of the deal. And with Lucy and myself and Lisa, Frank, all of us, is like, we were in for this challenge together. And we knew what that was gonna feel like. And I think that, you know, I'd had enough conversations in that speed dating that happens in the portal that she felt comfortable. And I think I'm really grateful for that, because I think no matter what happens in March, I think she's gonna, you know, leave here thinking basketball is still fun. And it was really fun here. And I don't think that I could be any more grateful that that's how she'll feel.
Last one, Scott.
Really, excuse me, I'm really interested in the chemistry of your team. You won 8 out of the last 10, but kind of even at that point, you saw, you know, you had a talented group of freshmen who probably weren't playing as much as you want. You had a talented group of role players who were still trying to figure out how to take that step forward, and then you had a talented player in Lucy Olson who's trying to figure out how she leads.
Right.
How did they gel? How did they become? How do they gain good chemistry both on the floor and off it?
Yeah.
When it could fracture at any moment and then you're really struggling.
Right. Yeah. You know, I think in our offense, and I've talked about this in earlier press conferences, our offense is kind of like a fine wine in and of itself. It's just like the aging process. It just takes time to get the reads down sometimes. And that's why when you have a group that could stick together in the past, the Kate Martin era, Caitlin, is like they had now played that 4 years, and then they kind of knew exactly what to look for when. And then you had one of the highest IQs to ever play it in Caitlin, right? So this particular group it took a little time, and we're still not where I'd really love to be, because it can be a little tough sledding, and I think that'll be the thing moving forward. We're just sometimes inconsistent offensively. But we got better enough in it. So I think that was one thing. They started to really get confidence and like, oh, if I do drive and I look for Taylor, that is gonna be open. And then if Taylor's covered, we'll do what we call a reverse circle, and then I can attack the closeout, and voila, I got 2. So a lot of that took time. But, you know, we do work on that culture piece a lot. You know, you have to allot certain hours for practice. You can only be with them 20 hours a week. And then we've always paid attention to, sometimes you sacrifice an X's and O's to make sure that it's right in here, and really learning how people communicate and what you need may be different than what, you know, Ryan needs or whatever. So I think that was worth it. And then I think the culture is the culture here, and the standard is the standard. And the seniors just, you know, the freshmen, wish I could play more. Everybody, Gino's, Don Staley's freshmen, they all want to do more. But there's those times, right? And when it steadies, and when you want to be a star in your role, and not so fixate on the starring role, beautiful things can then become to happen. But it takes a lot of doing. And with these particular years, I think we landed there. That's why we were able to win, I think 8 of the last 10 and be so doggone close in a couple of the others. But moving forward, I think to now get farther down the road in March, we do have to keep tweaking, and we just go a few too many minutes without some offense.
Thanks, Ken.